So much can change in Monster Hunter world. First, Diablos is now my friend, and Terror has a new name, which is called Tigrex. Or Tigrex? No! Stay away! Oh, this is not honorable. This is not honorable. Panicking. Hey, it worked. Panicking worked. Oh my god, he's limping. Pidgey hunts. I'm a little embarrassed to have shown you that footage as it's not my most honorable moment, but hey, I survived at least. Anyways, welcome back to a Monster Hunter Journal where I document my entire journey through Monster Hunter World and Rise. And now as I'm on a quest to hunt every monster in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, I document my journey through these journals. If you like that, be sure to subscribe and like. Let's get started with new mechanics. I am about 70, maybe 80 hours into this game, Monster Hunter World now. And I can't get over how I'm still learning basic things. And I'm not surprised because as I was starting the game, I had a lot of people commenting on videos, oh, I'm 100 hours or oh, I'm 500 hours in, and I never knew that. I even had some people say I'm 1,000 hours into the game, and I had no idea you could do that. And now I'm having that moment, which is kind of funny because I'm 80 hours. I feel like I should know everything, well, the base. And I'm like, oh, I'm just learning how this works. And I think this is part of the charm of Monster Hunter is every time you go back to it, it's familiar, but it keeps teaching and showing you new things. So one of a few of the new mechanics I've learned, the temporal mantle, for example, I've been using it for about 2-3 weeks now. It's one of my newer tools, but it's only this week where I actually learned what it does as I was struggling with some really high caliber monsters this week. We fought 4 monsters that were extremely difficult, including Glavenus, Nargacuga, Brachydius, and Tigrex. All of them made me sweat quite a bit, except for Nargacuga. And anyways, I learned that the temporal mantle, no matter what you're doing, it auto dodges for you. And I was like, oh my god, this is an amazing tool. I can't believe I'm just now understanding how it works. And it also made me appreciate just how effective good dodging can be. You know, in the early days, a lot of you were commenting on my dodging abilities, which were mostly luck and good intuition. But now that I need to dodge even more precisely, I'm struggling, and to see the temporal thing do it for me, I'm just like, oh, okay, I still need to get that much better at dodging. The next thing, the Vigor Wasp tool from Classy, the cat, the Palico, has upgraded to the point now where if I faint, sometimes I get an instant resurrection on the spot. And I'm like, oh my god, even my tools are getting like better. And for the record, if Classy says I'm not carding, I am not counting that as a feint on my counter. So my feint counter might be a little lower because Classy has saved my butt a few times this past week against these monsters. But those are my rules. If Classy says you're not carding, I am not counting that as a card. And then last week, I was joking about Classy making a friend and riding his friend into battle, and he has his own Yoshi. Now I can actually ride this what's it called? A raider. And I'm just like, oh my god, this is so cool that when a monster runs away, I can just summon this thing, and it takes me to the next battle, and I'm just like sharpening and potioning. And it's just such a smooth thing. Now, it's not quite as good as a Palamute in Rise, because you can't like jump off of it, you can't quite control it. But it's a nice added quality of life. I don't know if this was added with Iceborne or World, but I like it. Some other like little minor things is actually understanding when a monster is enraged, which this is something I should have picked up earlier. I now actually can recognize on the map when it goes red, oh, the monster is enraged. Maybe keep some distance from it or try to unenrage it. So like this monster mechanic that's been around since the beginning, being enraged, I'm just now recognizing it. And now my brain's like, okay, how do I deal with an enraged monster? Do I just stay away from it, or do I have to like knock it out of its rage? I think it's the latter, but I don't know how to do it consistently yet. So now I'm trying to figure out how to do that. And I'm just like getting into such like these higher levels of hunt, and I'm just like every time I feel like, oh yeah, I'm a good hunter now. The game is just like, are you? Are you really? Can you do all this? And I'm just like, I still have a lot to learn. So let's get into our hunts this past week. The first thing we did to warm up is we went to capture Dodo again. It was a master rank quest, so I had to do it. And actually it said hunt a Dodo, so we could have killed it. But man, you guys love your Dodo, because the chat was very adamant about not killing it. We even did a poll, and I think it was like 85% did not want me to kill it. It was a very smooth fight. Dodo was very easy to hunt. What was difficult was, I think for master rank, they buffed up Jay Leno. I don't remember his name, but the big rolly thing, because that crashed the party. He was dropping bombs everywhere. He was so aggressive. I don't remember him being that difficult. And he was just interrupting my dodo fight, constantly dropping bombs everywhere. He almost made me cart. It was stressful and scary, and I didn't like that. Then the other 4 monsters. So we went through kind of 2 rounds where you could hunt either a Glavenus or an Kuga, and then when you finish that, you can either hunt a Brachydios or a Tigrex. These were very challenging fights, also very interesting and fun. And I like, throughout all 4 of these fights, that they always showed you a monster that you used to think was tough, and it showed you the new monster just destroying it. So let's start with the Glavenus fight, because this was my favorite fight of the week, and it was just my favorite. It was fun. So it starts off with, you see a Rathian, and Rathian growls at you, and you're like, oh, he's growling at me. And then like the camera pans, and you see the Glavenus like towering behind you, and the Rathian's actually like growling at the Glavenus, and then it leaves, and you're just like, oh my god, this thing is even like more terrifying than a Rathian. And just what a beautiful monster. The coat of like blue, like shiny, like I don't even know how to describe it. The blue, the black with a bit of color, and that tail, like just that beautiful sharp long tail that looks like a sword. Beautiful creature. And this fight was so good. Another thing I noticed about all these fights is the progressively difficult, like the fight gets harder as you go. And I know this is consistent with all the monsters I've fought, but it really hit home with these monsters, because in the beginning of the fight, I'm okay. I can see 1 or 2 attacks, and I'm like, all right, I can deal with this, and I'm dealing a good amount of damage. And then in the second half of the fight, I'm sweating because I'm having troubles dealing damage, and I'm spending more time healing and dodging because the intensity gets so much harder from the beginning of the fight. And that is just cool, because as a hunter, I have to like adapt and like come up with some new methods to attack this thing. So Glavenus was great, especially at a part where I brought it out, or it ran out to the desert, and I was getting like, I was joking about like these PTSD moments with Diablos, because Diablos was such a good memory for me, and it was my first wall. And I'm fighting Glavenus, I'm starting to sweat, and then out of nowhere, like the sand pit opens up and Glavenus gets pulled in. I was like, oh my god, is Diablos pulling him in? And of course he like fell into the pit, and Diablos was there, and he's like throwing him on his horns and like tossing him up in the air. And it just felt like it was me and Diablos like tag teaming and like fighting Glavenus, who was like new enemy. It felt like in storytelling, one of my favorite aspects of storytelling is when you first create a rivalry or like an enemy. There's an arch enemy, and then eventually as the story progresses, the arch enemy has to become the new, like the friend to take on an even bigger enemy. Like that is one of my favorite aspects of storytelling. So like in Dragon Ball Z, that they do it with Piccolo, they do it again with Vegeta, and even later on they do it with Frieza. That is my jam. So the fact that we are now in Monster Hunter, and I'm getting it with my own story where Diablos is tag teaming with me. He still hurts me if he has the chance, but it felt like he and I were just tag teaming on Glavenus, which was the bigger threat, and it was just really cool. The monster was the music was awesome, and it just got really challenging. But man, it was a fun fight, and the armor from Glavenus looks so cool. And I'm at the point where I'm last week I was talking about I think it's Barioth, and I wanted the whole armor set, and I haven't even started farming that, and now I'm seeing better armor. I'm like, oh, sorry Barioth, I need to like grind out this, and there's just so much armor I want to grind out now. It's not even like I'm just getting overloaded because I want all the armor, but I don't have enough time to grind out all the monsters before a better piece of armor comes along. Oh man, Fashion Hunter's dilemma. So Glavenus, fantastic fight. Loved it. Next we went into Kuga, which is basically like the Batman. This fight was a lot easier in comparison. I had a lot less trouble kind of positioning myself, dealing damage. I'm getting to the point, especially depending on the map, where I can strategically position monsters to like deal damage, whether it's bringing another monster, causing a turf war, using like vine traps, things from above. I am doing everything I can to exhaust, like to do as much damage from all of these like little mechanics, jumping them, putting rocks in their mouths, slamming them into walls. Like I'm using everything in my arsenal to deal damage to these monsters. And at this point, there's like so many things that you can do and have to do, because there's so much health you have to like knock through, the hunts are just so much more satisfying. And then as the hunt gradually gets harder, you just need to figure out more ways to deal damage and get openings into this. But Nargacuga was really not that bad to create openings and to deal some damage. So overall, it was a pretty easy fight. The armor looked like a ninja, not quite as cool as Glavenus is, so I'm not like really eager to get it. In fact, I don't want it. And this fight was not like that appealing to me that I don't want to keep going back and doing it. Next up, we had Brachydios, which was a really interesting monster. I love the fact that he's got like no hands. He's kind of got stubby, slimy hands, and he just like punches the ground and like makes explosions everywhere and tries to cover you in slime. Very, very unique monster design, which I appreciate. And again, at the beginning, I'm like, oh, this is so easy. But then he got a lot more territorial, and he was like creating large explosions around him and like lines of explosions in front of him. And then a freaking Azure Rathalos showed up, and oh my god, that made things hard. I had to throw poop at him. What monster was it? There was a monster, I think it was Tigrex. We'll get to that. So with Tigrex, I was trying to put rocks in his mouth, but I was panicking. That was a really tough fight. And I ended up putting a dung pot in his mouth. I'm like, why isn't that running into his a wall? And everyone's like, you just put poo in his mouth. I was like, oh, that must be so insulting as a monster. You're trying to like fight this thing, and it just jumps you and like puts shit in your mouth. Poor Tigrex. Anyways, Brachydios. And then the map is another concern because it was in the Elder's Recess. We were in the, like, as soon as we went to the fire area, I struggle so much with fire. Dealing with the fire around me that is making me weaker, the fact that Brachydios is putting fire everywhere. I'm realizing I have a real weakness to fire. I have to overcome that and figure out how to deal with it. But the game got a lot harder and unpleasant later in that fight, especially when I got enraged and it got into a smaller area where there was just explosions everywhere. I think I might have carded on this one. It was challenging. It was unpleasant towards the end, but made it through that. And then we went to Tigrex. I was confident that I was not going to pass through this. Tigrex hits hard. He is fast. He is the train of pain. And I was terrified, and I was not making good progress on Tigrex. I had a lot of troubles finding openings on this thing because he's just like bam, and then he's like spin, bam, spin, and I'm just like dodging, running, potioning. I'm just like, when am I gonna get a chance to actually like hit this thing and do some damage? He was just overwhelming me in every possible way, and it's also in the Rotten Vale, which I'm not that familiar with the map to know where the traps are and where the environments are. So at most, I was able to get Odo to come in, and Odo was fighting Tigrex. He did 2,000 damage there. But the rest of the time, I had a lot of troubles. People were saying, like, break his arms, and I broke something at one point. I thought I broke his arm because he was, like, more sluggish. I'm like, oh, so much easier to deal with. And then I was, like, really piling on the damage. But then he started being fast again. So I think I, like, accidentally stunned him or something. And people were like, stun him a third time. And I was like, what do you mean a third time? I didn't even realize I stunned him the first 2 times. So that is a shortcoming in my own skills, that there's clearly ways to stun these monsters that I have not been doing intentionally. And I have to learn how to do it intentionally because Tigrex was just destroying me left and right. I played a clip at the beginning here where I had gone through all my potions. I had gone through every healing thing, and I was already like losing, and I was trying to get back to camp. So I'm trying to run away from the fight, and Tigrex is just like train of pain. And I was like, oh my god. And I'm just trying to run away to escape him, and he's coming at me, and I'm like one hit away from dying. And I was cornered, and I was like, if I keep running away, he's going to hit me. So I just turned around and started like smacking him with my axe in the face. And it just took 3 hits to have him run away from the battle. And that gave me my opening to go to camp, get more potions, go back and see him. And I think he had fallen asleep, and I captured him and just finished him at that point. But whew, that was a hard fight. Like, and now next week, I've got Valkana set up for me, an elder dragon. After those 4 non-elders made me sweat like crazy, and I'm just like, I'm not ready for this. I am so out of my league right now. So we're gonna do a grind stream this weekend, and I need to bring up my skills. I need to bring up my armor. Like, I've been going through Iceborne faster than I think I should have by the sounds of things, my armor is way behind. Like I am 2 ranks behind in my armor. I just feel like Velkhana is going to destroy me if I go to it right now. And oh, this game is giving me anxiety. Like it is stress, especially after the Train of Pain. I was certain that was going to be my new Diablos, because the feeling I was getting in that fight was the same feeling as when I went up against Diablos. Like I felt unmatched. I felt like I couldn't even attack it. I felt like it was just pounding and pounding and pounding, and I was just getting hit so hard. I was like, no, this isn't going to happen. But we turned it around. But I take no pride in it because I don't think I could do it again. So busy week. Next week, so much scary stuff to take on. Oh man, this game is getting so hard and scary. But we're going to do it. We're going to do it together. We're going to train. We're going to get through it. So I'll see you on the next journal or the next stream. And until then, keep it classy.